Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're all having a good Saturday and hope your Thanksgiving was awesome. Mine was good. I ate way too much food, and I've continued that trend right on into the weekend. So, taking a little food detox at the moment to record this video. But two things I want to talk about today. Number one, first thing I want to address, I've had a bunch of people ask me about this. Like, why did I stop doing the poll each week of where to winter camp and letting like you all decide where I winter camp? And the reason for that was I had a couple people that were messaging me some pretty creepy stuff. And one of them was like, "Hey, I'm stalking you," or "I'm not stalking you." He's like, "Hey, I'm seeing where you're going." So essentially, it was stalking, seeing where you're going. Keeping track on. I'm keeping tabs on you. I'll be looking for you, stuff like that. And I'm just like, "Fuck you, man. I'm not interested in that crap." And so I had another person too that was commenting on my post, not very specific, but generally it'd be like, "Why would you put this out there when people like me can come find you?" And I'm just like, I'm not really interested in that. So what I'm going to do going forward is I'm still planning to winter camp all winter and use the big tent with the wood stove. But what I'll do is I'll just put on my little section on my website of like winter camping 2019. What I'll do is I'll just put up like where I was the week prior, so that way there's no giveaway as to where I'm located. And the only people that will know where I'm at is the people that I'm going to be camping with or the people that I'll reach out to. So going to change it up a little bit. Still planning to winter camp all winter like I was originally planning to do. Looking forward to getting in the big tent. And after the holidays here in Kansas, I'll be out on the road again full time. And I'm going to be stopping off at my buddy Rick Biederman's ranch in outside of Buena Vista, Colorado. He's more towards Granite, Colorado, and he's got an amazing historical ranch. He's going to start a YouTube channel just telling the story of his ranch and what he does out there. He's got 3 hydropower plants from the water rights for the creeks that come down from the high country into his ranch that create a ton of power for the entire ranch, and got like really old school farming equipment that's just been left over there over the years from the previous owner, this guy Franklin. And so I'm going to cruise out there. That's the first place I'll winter camp when I start to head back west and track towards the coast. And so really looking forward to introducing you guys to Rick and his wife Katie and then their son Henry. Henry is the cutest kid you've ever seen in your life. So it's going to be great videos, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his channel takes off. So once that's up and running and we do some videos, I'll direct you that way so you can check it out. His ranch is amazing. Tons of history there. They found like Civil War era relics in some of the barns. The property itself goes back to, I think, the 1850s, if I remember correctly, and it was one of the first 3 ranches that was in Central Colorado to get established. So it's an amazing place. The other thing I want to talk about is the recent addition that I made to my cold weather truck camping. Now, the problem that I've always had in the topper when it's cold like that is condensation from like my breath, or using like a propane sort of heating setup. Every once in a while I use like the pocket rocket and turn that on for the backpacking stove real quick, heat it all up in there, and then turn it off. But the problem is all those things have, that's not like a dry heat. And then running my truck is fine. I can run that with the little pass-through that I have and put that little donut in there and have the heat go in the back. But it's kind of wasteful just to run my truck to heat the back of the topper. And with the topper being as small as it is, I've used in the past, if you guys remember that video I did last year about this time, I started using a lantern that was gas, that had like gas fuel in it. And that works great. It's just that it's a fire hazard, so you kind of have to be careful with it. And I've been kind of thinking about different things I can do. And ever since I got the Jackery battery, the 512 watt hour battery, that's like, I think it's close to about 30 amp hours. I started thinking, I'm like, heck, there's all these different plugs in the front. And you've got the 110 plug, and then you've got all the USB, and then you have the cigarette lighter, the direct current 12 volt plug. And so honestly, the best thing that I've ever added to my truck camping, winter truck camping or cold truck camping endeavors, is this cheap $20 heating blanket from Walmart. This was in the automotive section. It's a 12 volt deal, so you just plug it right in with the cigarette lighter, and then you're all set. And what I'll do is I'll lay this out on top of my sleeping bag. And it's about, let's see, if I stand up here, it's all the way to the ground. It's about up to my chest. So it's not super big, but it's a low voltage and low power draw heating blanket. And it's not like your typical electric blanket that gets super hot. Like when this is on high, It's definitely warm, and it'll keep you warmed up, but it's not blazing hot. And so, you got to keep that in mind when using something like this. But the energy draw on it is anywhere from 30 watts to 50 watts per hour. And so I can run this thing with the Jackery battery. I mean, here's the battery right here. And I can, if I want to, I can plug it into the 12 volt, which is the most efficient way to do it. Or if needed, I can just plug it into the, actually, no, I can't do that because it doesn't have the plug on it. I had another one that I had a plug like this I could plug it into, but the 12 volt's fine because I can run my fridge off of this, the ARB fridge, because it has both the 12 volt and the 110 plug. But I've noticed that with the lithium-ion battery that I had, that Jackery, the only drawback to it is that when it gets really, really cold, the battery will turn off, no matter how much power it still has in it. So a workaround, what I'll do is when I set this up at night, I'll lay it over kind of like my legs and my feet, and then I'll have part of the blanket that also goes over the battery. And this light keeps the battery warm and keeps it going all night. And I was at Valley View Hot Springs a couple weeks ago. It was down to 16 degrees that night. I didn't even realize it because I was inside my topper. I had the electric blanket here. I had it laying out on top of my sleeping bag. Then Sierra was underneath the sleeping bag. She was all warm and toasty. But like the radiant heat that was coming up from this little heating pad kept my topper plenty warm. And that's one major advantage about having a small space like I do, is I can heat that thing and also cool it down and nothing flat. It's real simple to regulate temperatures in there. And it's nice because I don't have to use a huge energy draw in order to keep the temperature regulated. If it was a massive camper and all that stuff, this wouldn't put a dent into the temperatures inside. But with the way my topper is so small and I can button it up so well to where the heat isn't escaping, I mean, I sat there for like 2 hours and I made dinner, I made like a nice backpacking meal, and then I ended up making some soup on top of that, and then had this thing going. I was sitting on top of it, had my computer down, so I was jamming, and I was getting caught up on emails and stuff like that. And I think I pulled in 2 hours, I pulled like 6% off of the Jackery battery. So I mean, I wasn't pulling a whole lot. And the thing is like, when the heating pad or heating blanket, I guess, I can't talk right now, when that gets up to the temp, whether it's the low temp or high temp, whichever setting you have it on, once it gets to that temperature, it just maintains it. And so, you'll see like the 30 to 50 watts pulling out of the battery as far as the readout goes. You'll see that in like the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes until that thing gets up to temp. But once it gets to temp, it just maintains it. So it'll turn on and then it'll turn back off, and it'll turn on and turn back off. So it's not consistently pulling that from your battery. So another thing I saw on the specs of this is that it pulls 3.7 amps an hour. So although the wattage is low, the amps are a little bit higher. And my Jackery battery, I think it's like a 30 amp hour battery. So roughly about, I don't know, 9 hours, 8 hours that I could get out of it before it goes completely dead. But nice thing about that is, with it, that'd be if it was constantly pulling the energy. It just doesn't seem to be pulling that much. So I've had a good experience with it so far. Now, like I was saying, this is not a full-on electric blanket. It's small. It's not like I'm 6 feet, actually 6'1", and this thing here goes up to like here when I've got it all stretched out. So it's probably, I would say, like 58, 60 inches, long. And then as far as wide goes, I think it's like only like 3 feet wide. So it's not big, but it's big enough to where if you have this, like if you have a sheet over you and then you have this in between a sheet and a blanket and you've got this running on low all night, like it doesn't matter how cold it gets, you'll be fine. You'll be plenty warm and you'll be all set. And so I think as far as cold weather camping goes, as long as you have access to like some sort of battery or even just your cigarette lighter just to warm up, you could run an extension cord that goes back to your truck topper if this cord isn't long enough on here to plug into your cigarette lighter. But anything that you could do to at least heat up your sleeping area, and even if it's intermittent heat, you don't have to have it on full time. You just turn on your battery for your car, warm this thing up to the cigarette lighter and turn your car off. It's a huge game changer. And just having, like I was saying, when I put this thing down, having that radiant heat coming up from the floor of the truck topper, and keep in mind, I'm only heating up like, 3.5 feet, 4 feet of headroom, and the length is 7 feet long, so, that's not a whole lot of space that I have to heat up. But even just with just this little 12-volt heating pad, it worked great. So just some things to think about, if you're going to be on the road and during the wintertime, this is great. Another thing that's nice about this too is that if you want, you can leave this over like your, when you're driving, you can plug it into your cigarette lighter and leave it over your lap if you want to have a little bit more warmth. I have a little bit of a hip issue on my right hip just from driving so much and doing all those 4x4 trails for those years when I was doing the trail work with the Forest Service. And so I found that if I sit on this thing while I'm driving, the heat is nice to have on those muscles on my lower back and my hip, and that helps out to keep it nice and loosened up for me, so when I get to whatever my destination is, I don't get out of the car looking like an old man. So something to think about. I'll put the link in the video description below. It helps out a bunch when you're out there winter camping and in cold weather. And then also, I'm going to use it in the big tent because that battery that I have, the Jackery battery here, is portable. And so I can put that in the big tent with me, and even if the stove's not going, I can still have my little sitting area or sleeping area warmed up. So something to think about. So anyway, hope you're all having a good weekend, and if you got any questions, hit me up in the comment section below. Thanks.